You've been told that your empathy is a gift, that your ability to feel the weight of a stranger's grief or a friend's anxiety is the highest form of human connection. They call you a healer. They call you sensitive. But in the dark hours of the night, you know the truth. It doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a crime scene you never asked to investigate. Consider the case of the porcelain witness. In 1994, a woman was found in a catatonic state in a crowded London terminal. She had no physical injuries, no history of trauma, and her own life was, by all accounts, perfectly stable. Yet her mind was shattered. When she finally spoke, she didn't talk about herself. She began reciting, in agonizing detail, the private tragedies of people she had sat next to on the train for the last 3 years. She had become a biological hard drive for secrets that weren't hers to keep. We will return to the porcelain witness and the chilling reason her empathy eventually deleted her own identity. But first, we must ask, why are you currently carrying the emotional silt of people who wouldn't even bother to learn your middle name? If this gift is actually a form of psychological hoarding, what does the internal architecture of your mind actually look like under the luminol light? Chapter 2. The crime scene. The world looks at your kindness and sees a garden. A forensic analysis reveals a warehouse. Walk through the crime scene of the emotional hoarder's mind. It is a labyrinth of unorganized evidence. Over there, in the corner, is the resentment of a coworker you barely like. Stacked against the far wall is the existential dread of a sibling who refuses to go to therapy. On the floor, scattered like glass shards, are the minor inconveniences of strangers. The rude barista, the aggressive driver, the crying child in aisle 4. You aren't helping these people. You are simply storing their hazardous waste because they were too lazy to build their own containment units. The symptom isn't caring too much. The symptom is a complete failure of the internal perimeter. You have mistaken observation for ownership. You see a fire in someone else's house and, instead of calling the department, you walk into the flames and try to breathe the smoke so they don't have to. But here is the question the self-help gurus won't touch. Why does your brain find it safer to obsess over their chaos than to sit in your own silence? To find the answer, we must perform a deep tissue autopsy on the logic of the hoarder. Why is the mind doing this to itself? Chapter 3. The Forensic Autopsy. Part 1. The mind is a ruthless economist. It never spends energy without expecting a return on investment. If you are hoarding the problems of others, it's not because you're a saint. It's because your brain has flagged external distraction as a survival mechanism. In the wild, a creature that is hyper-aware of every rustle in the grass is more likely to survive. You have evolved a high-resolution threat simulation engine. By absorbing the problems of everyone around you, you are essentially pre-solving disasters. You believe that if you can understand the mechanics of their failure, you can immunize yourself against your own. It is a defensive crouch disguised as a hug. This is empathic overcollection. It is the architectural logic of a mind that grew up in an environment where it had to predict the weather by the look in a parent's eyes or the tone of a teacher's voice. You learned that knowing everything about everyone else was the only way to stay invisible, and therefore, safe. But if this is a survival strategy, why is it currently killing your ability to function in the present? Chapter 4. The Forensic Autopsy. Part 2. Let's look at the adaptive advantage. You aren't broken. You are operating with a sovereign cognitive budget that is being embezzled. The trait you call hoarding is actually pattern recognition supremacy. Because you take in so much data, You can see a social collapse coming 3 months before it happens. You can feel the tectonic shift in a relationship before a single word is spoken. This is a high-level forensic tool. The problem is that you are using a supercomputer to calculate the grocery list of a stranger. You are applying deep intelligence to shallow problems. This creates structural fatigue. Imagine a bridge designed to carry tanks, but instead it is covered in 3 billion pigeons. The bridge doesn't break because of a heavy load. It breaks because of the sheer volume of trivial weight. By caring about everyone's problems, you have effectively neutralized your ability to solve the significant ones. You have traded your impact for static. If your mind is a high-performance engine being choked by dust, what is the radical verdict for your recovery? Chapter 5. The Radical Verdict. Here is the heavy-hitting truth that the kindness industry will never tell you. You are not too sensitive. You are underemployed. Your mind is so capable, so hungry for complex data, that when it doesn't have a monumental task of its own, it begins to scavenge for the scrap metal problems of others. You are an archivist without a library, a detective without a case. You don't need to care less. You need to prioritize harder. The verdict is this: your emotional hoarding is actually a sign of an elite processor. You aren't weak for feeling the world. You are powerful for being able to carry it. But a titan who carries a pebble is a waste of a titan. Stop treating your empathy like a charity and start treating it like a strategic reserve. You owe the world your contribution, not your contamination. Taking on their stress doesn't lower the global supply of misery. It just doubles it. Which brings us back to the porcelain witness. How did she finally empty her warehouse? And what does it mean for the case file currently sitting on your desk? Chapter 6. The Remedy/Closing. The porcelain witness didn't recover by talking it out. She recovered through a process called selective atrophy. She was taught to look at a person in pain and say, internally, I see the data, but I refuse the delivery. She realized that she could recognize the tragedy without archiving the evidence. She shifted from a storage unit to a mirror. A mirror reflects the image perfectly, but it doesn't keep the ghost when the person walks away. Your investigation closure is this: the next time someone tries to hand you their baggage, look at it forensically. Is this your jurisdiction? Is there a warrant for your involvement? If the answer is no, you are authorized to let it drop. The warehouse is full. It's time to start burning the files. You are not a dumping ground for the world's unfinished business. You are the lead investigator of your own life. Act accordingly. Case closed.